more than 1,900 American soldiers now dead, Iraqi security forces still being targeted as well, and the American military is concerned that there will be further attacks in the lead up to the referendum due on October the 15th for a new constitution that has proved extremely divisive.
Caroline Hawley, thank you. And U.S. military strategy in Iraq was given a hard time today on Capitol Hill when top military figures, including the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, were criticized by senators. The fact that just one Iraqi battalion is fully capable contributed, the senators said, to a loss of public confidence in how the war is going. At the same time, a U.S. judge ordered the release of more than 70 new images of abuse at Abu Ghraib jail. Here's our diplomatic editor, Mark Urban.
As support for the Iraq war slides in American opinion polls, Abu Ghraib is back in the news. The administration under attack from those who make the laws and those who interpret them. The decision by a court in New York to order the release of unseen Abu Ghraib images hit the Pentagon's Middle East commander just as he left a 4-hour grilling on Capitol Hill.
Can we ask you about the release of the Abu Ghraib pictures and video? Will this make your job harder over there?
Yes, it would.
Tell us how.
Look, when we continue to pick at the wound and show the pictures over and over again, it just creates the image, which is a false image, like this is the sort of stuff that is happening anew, and it's not.
The well-known images of prisoner abuse that helped convict Lindy England this week were only part of what was seized by investigators. An American human rights group has been trying to get the rest released under the Freedom of Information Act. And today they won their case in a New York court. The judge said that
our nation does not surrender to blackmail, and fear of blackmail is not a legally sufficient argument to prevent us from performing a statutory command.
Dismissing Pentagon claims that the release of more pictures could cost lives, he added,
"My task is not to defer to our worst fears, but to interpret and apply the law, in this case the Freedom of Information Act."
The US government is expected to appeal against today's judgment in an attempt to prevent the world public seeing things that influential senators are already privy to.
I think there's a direct correlation between these pictures coming out in public and what these guys are saying that they have done this atrocity of beheading.
To address a couple of questions that
today's congressional hearings turned into a showdown between senators speaking for an increasingly alarmed public and a Pentagon leadership unable to reassure them that progress is substantial or when US troops might begin a withdrawal.
We've crafted a strategy for success in Iraq based on historical lessons, counterinsurgency principles, and the realities on the ground in Iraq. And this is a strategy that will enable the Iraqis to take charge of their future. To be sure, the next couple of months are going to be tough and they're difficult, as our enemies also recognize what's at stake here as we complete this political process. They're already challenging the referendum process with increased terror attacks to create the impression that attempts at progress are futile and that Iraq will never become a modern democratic society.
Those statements and ones by General Casey's boss only nettled the more awkward senators into expressing their dismay that the Pentagon's past assurances have proven so unreliable.
General Myers seems to assume that things have gone well in Iraq. General Myers seems to assume that the American people, the support for our conflict there is not eroding. General Myers seems to assume that everything has gone fine and our declarations of victory, of which there have been many, have not had an impact on American public opinion. Things have not gone as we had planned or expected, nor as we were told by you, General Myers.
This is a hard struggle. We are trying to do in Iraq what has never been done before. This is historic. It's historic in terms of our security because it's part of the global war that General Abizaid talked about. This is, for the Al-Qaeda, a center of gravity. Whether we like it or not, those are the facts.
The hearing ended with the military promising only a condition-based withdrawal beginning next spring. Congress backs the current strategy for want of an alternative. And any serious setback in next month's Iraqi constitutional referendum or December's planned elections could silence even those on the Hill who still support the administration's Iraq policy.
Mark Urban. Well, I'm joined now by Amrit Singh, one of the lawyers for the American Civil Liberties Union who won their case over the Abu Ghraib images today, and by Walter Slocum, a former Director of Security and Defence for the Coalition Provisional Authority in Iraq. The Abu Ghraib pictures, Amrit Singh, you won your case, but the US government is clearly going to do all in its power to stop them ever being seen by more than a handful of senators.
Well, it certainly has been the pattern of the United States government to stonewall every effort on the part of the public to obtain information about the scope of detainee abuse in Iraq and elsewhere, and who was ultimately responsible for that abuse.
We already know, obviously, Lindy England, there have already been convictions over this. So what purpose would be served by seeing more than 70 still images and 3 videos